Hello, beloved and precious people. Welcome to Grace for Truth TV, a channel dedicated to a Christian's holistic growth in both knowledge and insight into the Word of God, sharpening and enhancing self-awareness, vigilance, and watchfulness in this end times that we are living in, as we prepare for the coming of Jesus Christ, our Sovereign and Lord. In this sixth video in the series, where we are taking an in-depth look at the origins of the dominion of darkness, I will be looking into the great rebellion of Lucifer and his fallen angels in heaven, and how heaven and God responded to Lucifer's rebellion. So when Lucifer and his rebellious horde of billions of fallen angels begun marching towards the temple of God to unseat God and enthrone Lucifer instead, God immediately responded by dispatching his mighty angelic army, led by the archangelic Prince Michael, to go and meet Lucifer's angelic horde in battle. And so, the two opposite sides met and clashed midway, even before arriving at the temple. And in this way, the greatest and most historic battle broke out in heaven between Lucifer's evil angelic horde and Michael and his angels. In this epic clash of the Titans, Archangel Michael and his army were greatly outnumbered by Lucifer and his angelic horde. But how come? As you can imagine, Lucifer had stolen 1/3 of all the angels of heaven from God and shifted them to the evil dark side. And naturally, there is no way any army can be made up of 1/3 of the entire population of any nation or kingdom. So Michael and his army were vastly outnumbered by Lucifer's evil horde. But this fact did not stop nor discourage the Archangel Michael and his army, for they boldly met Lucifer and his angelic horde in battle, with all the fighting spirit and courage they could master, even under the circumstances of being vastly outnumbered. So despite being largely outnumbered, the angelic Prince Michael and his army fought boldly, valiantly, and skillfully against Lucifer's evil horde. And through the sovereign power conferred upon God the Son, who is the Prince of Princes, by God the Father, Michael and his army were able to defeat Lucifer and his evil angelic horde, pushing them back and finally kicking them out of heaven. As it is written in the book of Revelation chapter 12 verse 7-8, that says, "And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back. But he was not strong enough, and they lost their place in heaven. The great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil, or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. He was hurled to the earth, and his angels with him." And with this victorious expulsion of Lucifer and his evil angelic horde, all the remnant angels of God in heaven breathed a sigh of relief. For now, they had at long last gotten a lasting break from the ceaseless accusations that were relentlessly being leveled against them before the throne of God by Lucifer. These ceaseless accusations of wrongdoing had for a long time caused the angels great anxiety, making them to constantly walk on eggshells inside heaven, while always apprehensive of Lucifer's accusations, not knowing which one of them would be next on Lucifer's chopping board. As it is written in a book of Revelation chapter 12 verse 10-11, that says, "Then I heard a loud voice in heaven say, 'Now have come the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God, and the authority of his Christ. For the accuser of our brothers, who accuses them before our God day and night, has been hurled down. They overcame him by the blood of the Lamb, and by the word of their testimony.'" When Lucifer and his fallen angels had been flushed out of the kingdom of heaven, which exists in the third heaven of the spiritual portion of the universe, they fell into the second heaven, which plays host to the trillions of physical galaxies. This realm that God had created specially to host the physical galaxies is a spiritual wasteland that is not hospitable to spiritual life forms like Lucifer and his angels. But God had thrown them out there and locked them out of heaven, because heaven is the eternal home of the righteous, and Lucifer and his angels had now become evil and wicked, which means that they were no longer the rightful citizens of heaven.
Please subscribe to the channel, press the bell notification to get alerts upon upload. Don't forget to like the video and share on social media.
Having rid heaven of Lucifer's rebellious horde of evil angels that were loyal to the evil dark side, God then lingered, looked back, and reflected on all that had just happened inside his holy dwelling. And all that had just happened greatly troubled him, filling his heart with great pain, because God could not understand how an angel he had loved and favored so much could turn around and repay his love and kindness with such intense bitterness, stealing 1/3 of the billions of his angels and shifting them to the evil dark side, a state that they can never come back from forever. For the formula of the fruit of the tree of life inside the fallen angels had perfected their evil nature by amplifying it to infinity, making them eternal, irredeemable, hopeless sinners. And to add to that, God could not understand how Lucifer, the most intelligent of all the angels he had created, could allow evil to corrupt his wisdom so deeply to the extent of him daring to overthrow God. For in ordinary circumstances, it does not take a genius to look around at all of God's creation and be completely swept away by the awesomeness of everything and just say to yourself, "Surely, what a mighty God this is who created all this. For sure, I cannot stand against him or even try to defy him." Yet the madness of the evil that had entered Lucifer's heart could not allow him to perceive or comprehend this simple fact, despite him being an intellectual genius. For if Lucifer had this simple wisdom in his heart, it would have restrained him from acting on his evil tendencies and from proceeding on with the rebellion. Once God had pondered and reflected upon the brazen audacity and depravity of the evil that Lucifer had orchestrated in his holy dwelling, he was immediately thrown into a state of furious raging anger. God became so angry at Lucifer and his fallen angels, to the extent that all of heaven shook violently with God's raging indignation in a heavenly quake. The entire atmosphere of heaven became filled with his dark cloud, and it was saturated with horrendous rumblings of lightning strikes that shook the very core of all the angels, filling them with great fear. All the angels were frightened because they had never seen this side of their God since their creation. In his righteous, raging, consuming anger, God proceeded to immediately create the furnace of hell and the lake of fire as a storehouse and punishment chamber for Lucifer and the fallen angels, in full view of all his angels. God created hell out of the material of his pure, undiluted, furious wrath and raging anger, with absolute zero love, compassion, or kindness involved. The entity of hell and the lake of fire that emerged out of such a creation process came out with an unrelenting, sadistic, and infinitely cruel personality that is designed to invent and innovate all kinds of torment mechanisms designed to burn and destroy the bodies of Lucifer and his angels relentlessly, without ceasing, without ever getting tired of inflicting harm or becoming satisfied with their anguish. As it is written in the book of Isaiah chapter 5 verse 14, that says, "Therefore Sheol has enlarged itself and opened its mouth beyond measure, their glory and their multitude and their pomp, and he who is jubilant shall descend into it." When the angels beheld the furiousness of the flames of the furnace of hell, and how the flames crackled with great destructive power, they trembled at the thought of their bodies being thrown inside there. But God made sure that he created hell in the full view of all his remaining angels, so that the fear of God may enter them, to keep them from straying into the darkness like Lucifer and the fallen angels. Once God had created hell and the lake of fire in full view of the angels, he then cursed and condemned Lucifer and his fallen angels by casting them into hell. As the fallen angels were falling into the furnace of hell after being thrown in there by God, their bodies were still glorious and radiating with light, but once their feet came into contact with the surface of hell, the power of hell metamorphosed their bodies, transforming them into grotesque creatures of darkness. Some of them received scary and hideous body forms, consisting of a mixture of animal and reptilian body parts. Others got transformed to become grotesque, shapeless blobs that could make you want to throw up. Therefore, once inside hell, Lucifer and the fallen angels became transformed by the power of hell to become Satan and his demons. And so Satan and his demons began their eternal torment in the fires of the furnace of hell, which would destroy them ceaselessly, without them ever being completely consumed. Once God had thrown Lucifer and his angels inside hell, he sealed it up, as it is written in the book of Isaiah chapter 14 verse 11 to 12, that says, "All your pomp has been brought down to the grave, along with the noise of your harps. Maggots are spread out beneath you, and worms cover you. How you have fallen from heaven, O morning star, son of the dawn. You have been cast down to the earth, you who once laid low the nations." After sealing them inside hell, God issued an eternal decree with lifted hands against Lucifer and his angels before all the citizens of heaven. An eternal decree is a universal decree that has no bounds in time or space. God's eternal decree against Lucifer stated that any of God's creation that will ever take to Lucifer, sin like Lucifer, follow Lucifer, and do anything in the spirit of Lucifer, then their wages will be eternal death in hell and the lake of fire, just like Lucifer. Once God had finished the work of dealing with the rebellious horde of his fallen angels by confining them into hell, God and his family of angels proceeded to restore the kingdom of heaven to its former glory after being devastated by a historic war.
Thank you for everything. I really appreciate your support.
In the next video in this series, we will be looking at the far-reaching consequences of epic proportions that arose from Lucifer's rebellion and its immediate aftermath. Shalom Maranatha.